Well, welcome. We are now on podcast number 3. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we're still here. We haven't been the fly-by-night Awaken men that disappear for a while. We're right here in front of you every week.
Yeah. In all space and times, in all moments.
We're all moving through it, right? It's like everything that's happening here. I'm sure somebody in another universe is creating another podcast, and who knows what great stuff is coming out.
That's true. The Cosmic Radio Show. I like it.
So we've been talking about what is a man. We talked about self-responsibility. Any particular subject that's standing out for you today, Daniel?
I know you guys were talking about this. I didn't watch the whole thing, but I want to talk about political correctness.
Yeah.
Let's stir the pot.
Yeah. So for those of you that are just listening in, Cheryl and I did a podcast. Cheryl was talking about the baby it's cold outside and a lot about what the words say, because there was a big article that was banning that from a station. And so we decided to do a Facebook Live, and a lot of it is revolving around politically correctness. And specifically, if you haven't heard the song Baby It's Cold Outside, what that is, it's a song where it's a man and a woman bantering back and forth, kind of flirtatious is what I call it. But there's some people that are saying that it's very rapey, I guess is the word that they use, because of, in one of the parts of the lyrics, it says, what is in my drink or something like that. So people are saying, well, that could mean a lot of things. But come on, people. 1944 song. Anyway, I just had to get that out. Thank you for letting me vent about that.
Yeah. I mean, so like from a spiritual standpoint, like we want to be triggered. Like that's good. That helps us grow. That shows us internally because something triggers us because we're unhealed in that aspect. So if someone shares something and it triggers us, that means something in us is off. And I love freedom. If there's any purpose I have in life, it's to give people freedom. And political correctness is the opposite of freedom. Like restricting speech and restricting what you can listen to. As much as I do get where people are coming from, like obviously people have been very hurt and raped, and that's absolutely horrible. And things are put in people's drinks all the time. It's happened to me. It's happened to my partners I know. It happens all the time.
Yep.
But no reason banning Santa Baby is going to fix that problem. Like you're attacking the wrong direction. Like you're like, I'm going to ban this song. It's like, what does that have to do with this? Like there's no connection. Like you're just like, you're just going off the rails. You're like, well, we're going to ban underwear because it's sexy. And then it's just, I don't know.
Well, I think, about what you just said, isn't it kind of funny that we're talking about them being triggered and we're being triggered because of that. So,
right.
So it's a very powerful thing what's going on, because it gets to a point you get into censorship about things. And when you're censoring things, it gets also to where is the fine line on that? Because at that point we have to censor who we are. Right. And censoring who we are, and I'm talking the individual, if that upsets me, we're like taking a part from history away from us. And history is what defines who we are, because that's what we learned from. And taking that part out might take that lesson away, is the way I see it.
Yeah. And it's just impossible. Like it's to micromanage what's out there so people aren't offended is literally impossible. You don't want to do it because it's a waste of time. It's not fixing any problems, right? Like the problem of rape, which is huge, no way if focusing on let's ban this song is fixing it. Like it's not a direct thing. And that's what I think the movement of political correctness does. It's not attacking the actual problem. It's just attacking the words and what people are saying, not going into the root cause. Like, I think that's where we're getting to. What's the root cause of that issue? Not Santa Baby. It's, that men are loved when they're children and hugged, and they're abused, and now they're taking out on women, and that's a culture. There's a lot more music out there but Santa Baby that are about that too.
Well, the song is Baby It's Cold Outside, but Santa Baby, though, that also could be another one. That could be, I just wanted to make sure we stayed with the right song, because Baby It's Cold Outside is the one that's having an issue.
Right.
It's okay.
The Santa Baby might be okay because it's a woman wanting.
No, I mean, okay, let's break that down. Santa Baby. Listen to the way the lyrics are. And I mean, you could take that into that instance too.
It's very sexual.
It's like, okay, so we're not okay with Baby It's Cold Outside, but how about Santa Baby? It's like, oh, hold on a second. Now we're getting to another level. What about like the popular songs and the movies? I mean, at what point is that enough? We're removing our identity by removing these parts of our history. I just don't agree with it in that sense. I understand what is trying to be a symbol for, but I feel it's not the right way to go about it to make that the symbol.
Yeah. It's really just, and it's been coming up in my experience. I don't think it was triggering me. I was just observing it because I think it's just interesting of like dreadlocks and taking on cultural heritage and people talking about that. And I was from the hippie community, so that's obviously a big thing. And I'm like, you're going after, if racism is a thing, attacking dreadlocks isn't gonna, it's like going after the small thing instead of going to the root, right? It's like, right. And it seems like that's the issue, but it's easier to attack the surface. Like, let's control people and make us not feel our feelings, because then that's easier. But going to the root cause of like, and going down the rabbit hole of what is causing this is not as fun to look at.
So let's look at this. Like you say, let's take it apart. So if somebody's being triggered about the song, it's obviously something within themselves. And we're using the song for this case, but it really applies to anything in our life. As men, especially, we have certain things that we also have to be very respectful of women. And that I completely understand. But there's also I don't know if you heard about it. It's called benevolent sexism, which a lot of the feminist movement is getting mad that men are opening their doors or they're paying for their bills, and they're going, oh, well, it's like that's something that it shouldn't be done. So to me, I do it out of respect. It's like kind of cool to do that, and it kind of chivalrous in my opinion. And to not be able to do that because somebody gets offended of that, there's definitely a trigger there. And I guess what do we do in that type of sense,
Yeah, I've dated women that didn't want that at all. Like, it would offend them, and then the opposite. So it would offend them if I didn't do it, which I'm currently in, which I like being a gentleman. So like from my core, I like that more and more. It feels good. I mean, I probably would open doors for anyone, but also and I think it's the intent behind it, but also funny. It's like, you're going to offend anyone no matter what you do.
Yes. Like, as we have discovered now, it's like, you can't really make anybody. It's like, if you don't offend that person, you offend that person over there or that person over there, or what's next?
Right. Like, and it's a weird way of control. It's like, we're going to make people feel good by censoring topics and that's what I think podcasts in this new age is amazing, because there isn't as much censorship. Like, there was censorship before, even with music or with radio shows, right? You had to do a certain radio show to get on the radio, and then that's how you got to the people. Like, there wasn't Awaken Men radio shows. Like, that wouldn't exist on the radio, right? We'd have to talk about sports to get on the radio, and that's how it was. And now there's open information. And I think it's just my opinion. it's our jobs to just ignore the stuff we don't want to see. Like if we don't want that in our reality, then just don't listen to the song.
Right. It's why am I going why can't I change the radio station? I mean, now we get into the other part of it. I'm giving up my control. And the only control we have is over ourselves. And if I'm telling somebody else, oh, I don't want to hear that, you're giving your power away to something else. And giving your power away is another way you can see this, because if you're having to rely on the external forces to create your safe environment, how am I myself going to be safe in my own body here? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. I mean, definitely. I mean, that knowing that you can discern, and I guess that's what it comes down to. It's just discerning what's right for you in the moment. Like, what can you look at? And then not giving your power away to fads. I don't know why it's almost coming through to say, but it's almost like this is the thing on the news that we're all going to talk about, and it's over here, and it's about the song.
Mm-hmm.
When there's like real issues happening over here. And I think I don't know if it's that they're deflecting us on purpose or we just like to be entertained over looking at real issues.
Mm-hmm.
One of the two, and I've been getting into this, like why is it's almost like it's like common sense. Like it's a song about this. Who cares? Let's focus on like loving our neighbors and dealing over here there's like an earthquake going on, but we're focused over here. Like there's real things happening to people. But it's almost this entertaining Facebook battle that we all get caught in with this, but also it triggers stuff in us, which is just interesting.
Yeah, that's the real important part to recognize, that there is a trigger for all of us, one way or another, whether it's a very slight trigger or even if it's because we're human beings. I mean, we're a soul having a human experience, and our soul wants to feel that. It wants to know, okay, what does that feel like? And being triggered, I mean, when you really look at it, it's a pretty intense emotion. Mm-hmm. And to be triggered gives you such a big learning from it, like you were talking about a little bit earlier. It really is one way of learning.
Yeah, I mean, diving into those emotions and seeing what the external is reflecting in you is huge. I mean, could it be that you're powerless? Could it be that you feel helpless? Could it feel that you don't feel safe? Whatever that is in you. And it doesn't mean we don't go change the external, right? I mean, obviously educate people about watching your drink and doing these things. Like, that's important. But then what is it triggering in me? Because from a place of anger, resentment, guilt, shame, you can't help anyone anyways. I mean, if you're coming out from that angry place, you're just causing a ruckus.
I have an example of what you're talking about. So for me, I grew up with mostly women in my life. And my mother, my sister, my dad was gone at 13. And so I grew up with a lot of feminine energy. And I became extremely overcautious in what I said, not to offend. And granted, my family, the women in my life were very strong. They are very strong. So I had that masculine side of me very, very calmed down and toned down. So I never got to express myself. And I feel that's a lot of what's going on right now, the expression of the masculine man, and masculine can be translated into whatever you want it to be, but allowing ourselves to be that strong person, because I didn't recognize my identity of what is a man, because I grew up with all these women, so I had to figure that stuff out, and it made me lose my voice. And that's why when I heard about Baby It's Cold Outside and the Me Too movement and various things, I grew up with a lot of women, and it's one of those things that you have to find where's your middle ground, and you have to be able to speak up, because if not, we lose ourselves. I definitely lost who I was for a while until I finally went through my process. And that's what I feel is one of the most important parts to keep in mind about this.
Yeah. And that's a beautiful, thank you for sharing, and we don't want to lose our voices and not speak truth. Oh, sorry. Losing my voice. As I lose it. We want to speak our truth, even if it's going to offend people. To the point, say so I don't know why. So say if you go back to like when there were like slaves in Egypt, because I don't think this will offend anyone, because maybe way back. If no one said they're slaves in Egypt, this is wrong, there would be no truth. And sometimes the truth doesn't feel good at first, especially when you go to another layer of it. So I don't know where I'm going with that. What do you think of that?
Well, the truth is always what sets us free. And I know that's very cliche, but the truth is what sets us free. And to not have, so knowing that we had slavery back then gives us the truth to understand what we are now. And if we didn't have that truth back then, we would know where we are now. So in a way, removing that truth becomes something that is different because we remove that.
Yeah.
So I think that's where you were headed with it, but please jump on in there and let me know if I'm completely off base.
No, that's perfect, because I didn't know where I was going until that. But yeah, and then I know I have this. If anything I hear, especially from the internet, I am 100% questioning it right away in my body if it's true. Because at this point, there's so much information you don't even, right? If you look up the cure for a cold, you're going to look up flu shots. So many people think it's the government putting stuff in you and it's this big conspiracy. And then some people say it works. And it's like, whoa. Yes. And like, there's not even good information anymore coming from sources because there's so many. So like we have to dig deeper to find truth. And when you take whatever's on the internet and grab it, and make this big thing from it, like it's literally, there could be rumors spread from one little thing that's not true at all. And I think that's happening all the time with people. I hear people calling people names that they don't even know because they heard it on the internet. They'll be like, this guy's a douchebag. And I'll be like, how do you know? Like, I don't even have a response because I can't convince someone, but I'm like, because you heard on the internet he did this from someone else, like, that's like believing rumors on a playground. And part of me thinks the internet has turned into a 5th grade playground. I like you. I don't like you. You're a douchebag. You're nice. I'm friends with you. Like we're literally living in 5th grade on the internet. And we have to pull, and it doesn't mean don't use it, but pull back and go, wait a second. Did I just get sucked into like a playground rumor thing? Like, did I get sucked into something that's not even real? Because it's not really real.
So in my Tech Life Balance program, I talk about that, where what we do on Facebook or any social media, really, especially in Facebook, all we ever see are the good things.
Right.
We don't, once in a while, somebody talks about a sad thing that happened to their life, but most people don't ever share, I got this happened to me or this happened. They share very surface level information. And what's the interesting part about social media and any platform is that we see the message and the message is translated by the receiver. So the way I display myself out, like for this podcast, it's not going to be translated in the way I see it. It's going to be translated in the way people are picking up the way I'm speaking. So it's all about the receiver. So when we hear people going, it's, everybody's so happy and I'm sad. And because we're only seeing that part and we are translating it with our own emotions. And that's that's a tough thing to grasp, because we're such emotional creatures. When we see something on the internet, we think it's real because we want to believe it's real because it's in written form or it's in some type of form. And it's fascinating to me seeing what people believe on the internet.
Mm. Yeah. I mean, you can spread a lie. I mean, there was moments where people would say certain things on the internet and people would start believing it was true to the point where the collective believed it, but it wasn't really true. Like and people aren't, and that's why you're just checking with your body and seeing if it's truth or not. You know, does this feel good to me? Does this feel right? And just common sense is pretty simple. Like, oh, this person probably isn't a horrible person. They just don't like his viewpoints. Like, that's probably, if I went out and said I was at him at a restaurant and we like bumped into each other, he would say, excuse me and sorry and be a decent person. Like, I mean, it requires your own level, like your own thinking, which requires slowing down and actually being with yourself, which no one's really, 95%, I'm making up numbers, don't believe what I'm saying, are just going to work and being entertained. They're never thinking. Like 50% of people don't even read a book, a year, which is kind of scary. Like, I mean, it's scary to me because that means no one's thinking, and that means no one has actual thought. People are just regurgitating like misinformation, and it's like a fifth grade playground.
Well, that's one of the reasons I like this Awakening podcast we're doing, because being awakened, that word is, you can take it in so many ways. To me, it is that slowing down. I mean, scientific study after scientific study has now been proven meditation is very healthy for the mind. And you know why I feel that it is very important and why it helps is because it slows us down. I mean, the people looking at this podcast, how many times have you looked at your phone right now? Are you distracted by something else? Has there been a ringing, or has there been some other noise outside of you? Just kind of sit for a minute and listen to everything around you. And we're being distracted in so many ways. And that slowing down is what allows us to be there and actually listen and be with our emotions. But we're not taught to be that way. We're taught that there's this here. Oh, now you got to deal with this. Oh, now you got to have the American dream. Oh, you got to have this. Oh, now you got a new car. Now you need 1.5 kids. Oh, now you need to be married. Oh, now boom, boom, boom. Look at the movies. Look at the coming back to Baby, It's Cold Outside. It's about a couple, that they're flirting back and forth about a relationship. Even relationships, we're bombarded. So we're bombarded all the time. The only way that we will see the truth is by slowing down. And that to me is, if I have my own public service announcement, that would be it. Slow down a little bit and you will see things so differently.
No, I 100% agree. I mean, it's so simple. I mean, you think of Aristotle or Einstein or even Carl Jung, or these people that are great thinkers and had great ideas. The one thing in the comments, they spend a lot of time by themselves thinking.
Yes.
And meditating is obviously, is different. But I mean, if they just spent time with themselves, why do we have great ideas in the shower? Because we're finally not distracted.
Mm-hmm.
We're in the bathroom. But what if you were like that an hour or two a day, or at least 30 minutes? Like, what would come out from that? Like it would have such an ease. We go on vacation even now, and people, drink and party on vacation. Like, they don't even use that to rest. Like,
right.
When have you took that time to slow down? And whatever that is, even if it's 10 minutes, even if you sit in your car before you're in the house, like, it's gonna, even though when you're in a fight, you take 10-minute break, you come back with this clearer mind. But if we just percolated that and did it more and more, it would create that space in our whole lives, and then we'd just be nicer to each other.
Yes, I always like to tell a lot of the clients that I work with or coach with or just talking in general, just 5 minutes. Start with 5 minutes. And if you slow down those 5 minutes, then next time try to go for 6 minutes, then 7 minutes. And it'll be just those 5 minutes alone. If you can start with that, it gives you such an amazing insight. And it's incredible, the things that happen.
Mm-hmm.
So I really enjoy, and you were talking about meditation. One of the things I want to make sure I get out there is I feel meditation is different for everybody. Yes, we have all this structure about, oh, you got to sit there and be in this position or that position. But honestly, to me, meditation is sitting in the way that's comfortable for you without any distractions. To
Right.
me, that's the meditation. It doesn't matter if you're laying down. It doesn't matter if you're thinking about the four colors. I mean, the seven chakras, the seven colors,
Right.
or an ohm or this or I believe that meditation is what you make of it, and it has to be what feels good to you. Because if we give you structure, we're just trying to control what you're trying to do, and really, some people get opposed to that, and they go, "No, I don't want to do it that way," and they never do it again. So I'd rather have it be open and be whatever it meant to be, as long as there's silence and no distractions.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of just meditation is, just sitting with no distractions. Like, I will sit there with tons of thoughts sometimes. And I think that's meditation. I won't control them per se, but I'll just watch them. And like, sometimes I think of things
Yes.
for an hour. And I think that's good. I mean, that's contemplation from a Buddhist perspective. And then my big thing is the car. If literally everyone just wasn't distracted for, like, if you have a 15-minute drive to work, just don't put on any music or anything and just drive.
Yes.
That'll change your day. Like, it's amazing. It's amazing how that just would change everything. And you're not wasting any time. So obviously you're going to be in the car anyway. So you're not, it's a good,
Yes.
Doing it in silence, don't listen to us, just listen to silence in the car.
So
But I think that's super important.
it's really funny. I went to that Vipassana, and it was 10 hours a day for meditation for 10 days. And yes, we did the pose and we did this and that. But one of the best advices I got was at the very end, on the second to last day or the last day, I can't remember. Our instructor said, you know what, go outside and walk around. And as you step for each step, just feel that step and just allow that feeling of whatever it is. Then take another step and feel what that step is, and another. And so I started putting that into my life. And wherever I walk, I try to not be not be anal about it, but to the point that I'm concentrating on the next moment and the next moment and the next moment. And that has helped me tremendously in a lot of the things that I've gone through. And it also helps me in my emotional reactions. That's how I've dealt with a lot of my stuff.
Yeah, I totally agree with walking meditations and, fitting it. Yeah. With anything like meditation, just doing it is enough.
Yes.
If you go to the gym, like, who cares if you worked out hard or you lost this much weight? Like, you showed up. The more time you just show up and sit there for 5 minutes, the better it's going to get. So showing up is the key with everything. And then everything will happen from there. So
Yes.
I think what people do is they say, well, I couldn't meditate. But you just
I hear that a lot.
For 10 minutes. Like, it's almost ridiculous at its core. It's like, you can literally go to a job 60 hours a week and drive an hour to get there, maybe. But sitting for 10 minutes in silence, I couldn't do. Like, part of me is like, yeah, it might be super painful and uncomfortable, but so was going to the gym the first time. So was learning to hit a baseball. It was frustrating the first time if you did that, like, whatever it was. And then you started getting better at it. So it's a practice for a reason.
Well, I'd like to say this, and being a technology guy, that's all you have to do. How much time do we spend texting? And that's some silence there. So why not put down that you're texting that you're going to spend creating your email for 5 minutes, and rather than write a text, just say, you know what, I'll sit here for 5 minutes, and just put the phone down. I mean, it's that simple. But we're in Pavlov's dog training right now, where you hear a beep or you hear a vibration. oh man, that's my phone. I got to pick up my phone. So we're being trained to that. So that's one of the reasons I was very happy to be able to help people with that, because in IT, we're always bombarded by different sounds, different emails, and we're always in a crisis mode because nobody ever calls us when something is running good.
Right.
They're always calling us when something's running bad. And it has helped me tremendously not being so reactive to the dings and the vibrations and the emails. And it has helped me to calm down, and I become a better person helping them. And we solve the problems a lot faster than before when I was just reacting.
Right. Yeah. I mean, they've done, yeah. And I totally get that with the IT. I mean, you're constantly, it's so funny because people think they need to be there, like the world will end. I remember going camping and I was knocking my phone, and I won't name anyone's names, but people would be like, what if I can't reach you? And I was like, 50 years ago, you wouldn't reach me for 2 months. 10 years ago, you couldn't reach me at all. It's going to be okay. If I did die, I would still be dead and it would still suck. And I couldn't text you if I was dead anyway. So
yes,
let me off my phone. And I guess because at the end, like, I dare people, and I did it this week, and I'm daring people, so I do it, or challenge people to, like, have a day where you only turn on your phone if you need it. Like, you can check it, use it for GPS, but right when you're done with it, turn it off. I choose Sunday because it's usually when I have less people contacting me and it's my rest day, but I will turn my phone off. Like, because my job is all, people can message me, and being a coach and teaching people, like, that happens. And I always wanted to respond right away. And I thought I would lose my clients if I didn't respond right away. And that could be the case. But you need a break. Like, there's studies, they put popcorn kernels in front of phones and they pop the popcorn. Like, they're microwaves. Like, you probably don't want it on all the time around you. Like, you need a break. So, like, and that's from a technology standpoint, but just even a mental standpoint. Like, then you're like, oh, I don't have to worry about my phone, and your brain will take a break. Because it is an extension of you, but it needs a break. Like, we all need a break from technology, I guess. I don't know how it came to this, but with
that's slowing down.
Yeah.
I mean, the technology has taught us to be fast. It's great and convenient. I mean, look, let's take email, for example. Before email was faxing. And I remember, because I've been in the IT field for about 20 something years. And I remember the first time we started getting email into the corporate environment. And this one lady came up to me. She says, you know what? It's like, I really don't want the faxes to go away. And I asked her, well, why? It's like, you get the information right away now. She goes, because with a fax, there's a patience that you have to have. With email, everybody thinks that because you get it right now, you're going to respond. And that's not the case. That's part of tech life balance. You have to balance your life in that part. And turning off your phone is one of those that I truly love doing that. I call it disconnecting.
Yeah.
And disconnecting from that does require some strong effort for some people. But once you do it once, you're going to feel relieved, and then you're going to want to do it again because you get a taste of it and you go, wow, it's like I have all this freedom now.
Yeah. It actually gives you more freedom. It's bizarre. And it's not even that you don't have to respond. I mean, you can say no. Like, and if someone doesn't like you because you don't respond to a text message, if it's a female, if it's a friend, and you don't respond right away, obviously if you're supposed to, for whatever reason, like you have plans, respond. But other than that, they're probably not a person you want around anyways, because, they're not patient, and then you're becoming this pleaser of the customer and everyone, and finding that, obviously doing your work and responding, but finding that balance. Like, I know when I worked and I email constantly, I would check it twice a day, and that was it. And I would shut it down. And I got twice I would work 30 hours and people would work 50 hours at the same job because it was salary. And it was
Yeah.
because I didn't have constant distractions coming in and other people didn't know how to manage that.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't like a competition. It's just a study almost of like, wow, like how much that little itty distraction distracts you from your flow of work or whatever you're doing.
Yeah, we think we have the illusion of communication.
Yeah.
That's and that's what's causing us to move so fast because we think we're communicating right away. But how many times have you sent a text and you kind of figure out what they're trying to say, but you never confirm? That's
Yeah.
one thing that I've learned also throughout the things that I've been coaching and teaching people about is that they have to understand what they're saying. So it's okay to ask if you don't understand. It doesn't matter how you look or anything because you want to make sure that you confirm what they're saying. And to me, it's great to say, okay, let me repeat this. This is what I heard. And that gets into that slowing down. You have to slow down to think and say that. Because if you don't slow down, you're just going to be reacting. I would be reacting over and over again.
Right. Yeah. Cause from reading, let's say like the Bible coming for a book, like everyone interprets that book differently, the characters, everything in it. So if that's the case, and that's good, that's why words are awesome because we can use our imagination from the words. But that means text messages are the same way. So someone might be saying this, and then the other person interprets it with their own imagination, and then it becomes this big thing. And we're not, just communicating and slowing down, and maybe call that person and be like, "Oh, okay, this is what we really mean."
Yeah, everybody forgot that the phone can do that magical thing, make a phone call.
Right.
It's like, how did we ever, before there wasn't voicemail, so you'd have to run to the phone. It's like, oh man, if I don't pick it up, then, and we didn't even have caller ID, so we didn't even know who called. So it's like, oh well, we missed the phone call, and that's all right. But now we have to have that. It seems like we get that need to know. It's like we need to know who called. We need to know what they called us about. But wait, I'm going to send them a text.
Right.
Wait a minute. It's like, why don't you just call them and get clarity? Because voice has a lot to do with it. There's a tone that goes with the voice. The text has nothing in that sense. So you don't know if they're joking. You don't know if they're hurting. You don't know if they're angry. You just know the text, and the only person that's going to translate it is the receiver, which is me when I get a text.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's what happens with the internet with these songs and these things. And I think of like Jordan Peterson and people that just like have these huge opinions about people. And I just wonder if you called them, like even the people on the internet that you're judging your celebrities or all these people, you probably would think they're okay. I mean, some of them probably would be jerks, and I would agree with you if you interact with them. And I bet it's the opposite. I bet there's a lot of celebrities and people out there that you think are really nice because of what they sing about or what their movies are about, and then you meet them and you're gonna be like, oh. And it's probably totally different than you think. Like, and everyone's doing their best, and it's just interesting that it just comes up that way. And that's why I'm like, I don't want to have a judgment. I might not agree with their ideas, but I'm not going to say they're a bad person because that's not having to do with them. Like,
well, it comes back to how they learned. Some of these people don't know what they don't know. I mean, they only grew up. We all grew up a certain way, and that's all we know until we go seeking for something else.
Right.
Other than that, we only know. So if I grew up and this is my life, that's all I know. That's all my perspective. And it's up to me, self-responsibility, what we talked about in the other podcast, to get out of that little box and go out here and jump up here and do your due diligence for yourself to be explorer, be exploring. Or if you choose not to, just know that you have chosen not to. Because the moment you're saying, well, I don't know, then you're not taking responsibility for your stuff there.
Yeah. And don't know and see and know. And that's with different things and people's intentions or celebrities that I'm talking about. Like, I'm saying I don't know. I don't know if this person's nice or not, because that's really the truth. I'm not just going to take someone's opinion, because I've definitely met friends that I love that other people don't like. So, and that's fine. It's just preference. But like saying don't know, and say this because I guess I'm supposed to not offend people, but not regurgitating information that you don't know is true. That's just like some opinion thing you saw, and then it becomes a rumor mill, and we all get distracted. And
correct.
And the self-responsibility is going, okay, that's happening out there, but what's in me? What do I change? What do I shift? How do I get more information? Do I got to look something else up? Do I got to, and that's that self-responsibility. It's, yeah, bringing that information into your life. And also, I do like this saying, like, you got to take care of your own life and your own internal state before you start going out there and criticizing what's happening in the world. And,
correct.
And I think there's a lot of truth in that. I mean, you got to get yourself together, whatever that means. I'm not saying, you know, but it's true. You know, are you feeling good before you react? Are you reacting from a state of anger? Or, you know, is it because you're resenting something that's happening out there? Is that why you're reacting that way? You know?
Yeah, and that's coming back around to what we talked about. It's like this baby, it's cold outside, politically correctness. Politically correctness, to me, it seems to be more of a, you're giving somebody else the responsibility to control how you're feeling. And I don't know about you, but I don't want to do that. I want to be able to discern for myself and go, you know what? I don't like that song. Okay, I'm just going to change the dial. Or I'm going to go, it's like, all right, well, I don't really like it, so I'll turn off the radio. But giving myself the power rather than giving the power to somebody else. It is an endless spiral. I mean, because we really could get into very dangerous grounds. I mean, because then we don't have anything to move towards, or we might be learning the same lesson over again. It just kind of boggles my mind of how this happens.
Yeah, to me, it's just as bad if Stalin said you couldn't talk bad about his regime. Like, it's censorship, and it's not good no matter what, censoring what people say. People will switch what they say in general because it's not accepted by society. So I think that's why racism isn't as vocal in certain places. Obviously, in some places it is, because you couldn't say it or you'd get so much backlash, right, which I think is good. I mean, that's, at least they got to hide it. Now, hopefully it goes away over time. But also, like, but censoring things from a top down, telling people what they can and can't say, never works. I mean, what are you going to do?
No.
You know, ban certain songs and ban people from free speech. I mean, that's fascism and dictatorship in just a different way. It's like, you can't speak that way. That's what those kings and queens and dictators did. It's just a different way of doing it.
Yes, and you know, the political correctness, there's something about politically correctness that has gotten us into where we're at now. And I have to go political with this a little bit, you know, and I'm talking about Trump. One of the things that I actually am very grateful for is that he brought out the thing that most people thought was still not there, racism.
Right.
There's people that are still angry about whatever, and it's bringing that racism out. And to me, it's good it's happening, not because I believe this or believe that, but because that's the only way we will heal anything. Mm-hmm. And that's how I feel about this song. You know, it's coming out, and these issues are coming out to heal something because it's bringing our awareness to it. Just like Trump bringing out certain awareness of different things. See how people react when I say immigration, and I'm Mexican too, so you know it's So just see how people react to that. And if it had never been brought up to the limelight like it is now, we would have been very numb to it. It's like, oh no, everything's okay, everything's hunky dory. And those are the dangerous times when there is issues and they're hidden somewhere in there, because that's how a very destructive force happens.
Right. You don't want to be in a state of denial. And from a spiritual perspective, I don't agree with not looking at things because they're uncomfortable. Like,
Correct.
I'm so against that. That is, it doesn't mean don't be positive and like change your vibration, but to ignore what's happening is just denial. And if you're doing it externally, you're probably doing it internally. And
Yes.
that doesn't work. Like, obviously, the way an addict heals is by seeing that they are an alcoholic. That's the first step. I mean, the first step of healing anything is admitting it exists. So I think you're right with the Trump thing, like admitting that racism exists, admitting that we have to do, you know, something with immigration, you know, whatever that is. You have to admit there's
whatever it is.
Yeah. That, you know, there's pollution out there, whatever you got to admit there's a problem, and then you can create the solution.
Yeah, and it's one thing also taking it and saying something about it, and then there's another thing actually doing something about it. So that is another very important part. And the only way, and I got to reiterate this, the only way we see all that is by slowing down.
Right.
That's the only way. If we keep going at this pace, who knows where we're going to wind up in a few more years.
Right. I feel like, you know, the guy that's middle-aged, 45, worked at a job he didn't like his whole life. He drank to work, drank beer, came home, watched TV, and then he wakes up one day, maybe because he gets sick, usually that's what happens, and then he has to reflect, and he's like, oh, shit. He never slowed down enough to look that he didn't like where he was going.
Yes.
It's like if you were driving and you were lost and you never slowed down enough to see where you're going, you just keep on going in the wrong direction so far. And you'd be like, oh, crap. And I've done it, so I know how this works. And slowing down my life, you know, making choices not to go out on Friday night, Saturday night, and staying in and looking at myself, like little choices to slow down have made huge differences. Because I can see things and I can direct my life easier because I have a practice of slowing down.
Yes. And, you know, I think that's another excellent way to kind of end it. We're close to our time here. One of the things that I do want to say, a lot of the things, we're talking about Plato's cave, and Plato's cave is like being in that cave and you only see one side. But finally you get out of the cave and you see so many other things like we talked about. But that also requires the slowing down to see what's there.
Yeah.
So thank you, Daniel. Since we talked about challenging slowing down, what would you want to say as the challenge for our audience here?
I like the turning off the phone for a day. If you can do 2 days and not have contact, I mean, that's more of a shamanic type practice. By no means am I a shaman, but a shamanic practice of getting away from technology for 2 days. Your whole life will shift. It'll be uncomfortable. But even one day, even if you go down to 6 hours, whatever it is, like just getting off your phone for that period of time, turning it off, putting it away, it'll slow you down so much. And don't go watch TV if you turn off your phone. I mean, this is like a technology time. I guess I had to reflect because I'm like, oh, you can go watch TV, but just having that day or, you know, as much time as you can do off of that.
You know, I love that because the phone is a very big thing. And for me, I want to leave people with this tech life balance tip. If you feel you're not productive when you're in front of the computer, this is my advice. If it's about you working on a Word document, open up the Word application or whatever word processor you use, close all the other applications, turn off your phone, and you'll be surprised how fast you finish what you're working on.
Yeah. You can put your computer on airplane mode too, right?
Yes.
Some computers do that. Yeah.
Yeah, some computers you can put them on airplane mode. So just think about that and find out how productive. So that's my challenge for you guys.
Perfect.
Well,
Awesome. Well, thanks, Mario, for being amazing as always.
and thank you, Daniel, for being amazing and being here with us. Being here with me. I really am enjoying this, and I'm looking forward to the next one.
Me too. See you all next week.